I mean, I think that's the easiest way to find the meeting. I can talk to Ms. Kobler and see if there's, I had a girl 7th hour said it showed up in Canvas. Brian, where did you find it?
I had to find out then after the video, I went back to the email.
Okay. All right. I'll dig into that a little bit. See what I can find out. Okay. All right, so roll. We are missing, we got Grant, Alex, Elizabeth, Rachel, Sydney. Who are we missing? We got Sydney, that's you. Rachel, that's you. Elizabeth, that's you. Alex. Grant. Oh yeah, this May girl's gone. So we're down to 6. I'm gonna fix that. All right. Don't need that. Okay, so did you watch yesterday? We did guns. We did try 14-year-olds adults. Okay. And we did prayer in school. Okay. And then I think I kind of started on hate speech. Was that in the video a little bit? Okay, so I mean, with hate speech, guys, obviously as Christians, we don't want to go around and, say nasty things to people, and most of us don't. Okay, but as thin as people's skin has gotten about being offended, you know what I mean? Even if you're just kind of joking around with somebody and they take offense to it, whether it's a racial thing, a religious thing, it could be a whole range of different issues. People get offended, and on college campus they talk about these safe spaces. Okay, guys, if you're in college, you're an adult. You shouldn't need safe spaces from ideas or words or debates. You know what I mean? This is a free country, and so I have a hard time like defending the other side. I don't know if you heard me talk about Canada. In Canada, you can go to jail for saying the wrong things. I think I talked about Islam and how because they're trying to protect minority groups, like religious minorities, if you say something that is offensive to them, you can go to jail for that. Okay? And I just don't think that's the road we want to go down. When you talk about political correctness, you guys have all heard about political correctness, yes? Do you know where that comes from? I don't know if I mentioned this in the video yesterday. It comes from Joseph Stalin. So back in the Soviet Union, you guys all heard of the Soviet Union, right? Communism and so forth. Okay, so after World War II, you have the Soviet Union. Okay, and Joseph Stalin became really the second dictator of, why that thing's not working. The second was Joseph Lenin first, and then Stalin. And Stalin was really paranoid. And so they have secret police. They have this in China today, okay, where you have government agents that could be your next door neighbor. Okay, they could be your husband or wife. They could be your cousin. They could be working for the government. And if you say something that is against the government, that's politically incorrect about Stalin and his government, you disappear. Okay, they had this in East Germany after World War II. East Germany was controlled by the communists. And they had this, the secret police are called the Stasi. In the Soviet Union, they were called the KGB. Okay, and they're listening. Now, I asked the class yesterday if any of you guys had to read 1984. You read it? The thought police. Okay, where in Russia, you didn't vaporize like in 1984, like you never existed. They would send you to the gulag in Siberia, to a labor camp where you would work until you died. You'd never be heard from again. For political offenses. Same thing in Cuba today. You can't criticize the government. I don't know if you still have any family back in Vietnam. Are you free to openly criticize the government in Vietnam today? You got to be careful. Okay, I had Long Ta in class a couple years ago. I don't know if you guys ever knew Long. He's a crazy guy. Okay, but he's Vietnamese. He was foreign exchange, so he's not a U.S. citizen. And he was calling his mom back in Vietnam, and he was doing an interview with her for my class, and he was asking her about the war and stuff, and she's on the phone. I'm listening to this recording. She's like, she won't answer the question because she knows the government's probably listening to the phone call. Okay, you want to live in that society where you got to be careful what you think or say? You want to be canceled for having a different opinion, like lose your job? Because this is what's happening to people. Rather than debate somebody, what's happening is they're saying, no, your ideas are evil. I will not even talk to you. In fact, I'm going to try and get you fired from your job. Especially if you're a professor at a university and the kids are all, you can't think like that. You can't talk like that. Okay, so it's a dangerous road to go down. I'm telling you guys, okay? And college campuses where you should have the most free speech, they're doing away with it, okay? So I just want you to think about that, okay? So most of the people in this school think very similarly, okay? When you guys if you go to KU, okay, there's going to be a lot of people, especially the professors, that think differently. They have a different worldview, okay? And some of them are afraid of you to express it because they don't want their ideas challenged, okay? So they'll say your ideas are bigoted or hateful or anti-woman, okay? Or anti-black or anti-whatever, okay? So you can't speak. You want to live in that world? I don't, okay? All right, I'm going to move on from hate speech, okay? And really, I wasn't fair to the other side if I'm giving both sides of this, so let me give you just a little on that. So yeah, I mean, hate speech can cause emotional harm. It can anger people. It can, make them feel unsafe, okay? But speech is not violence. Okay, I go back to that old thing that we used to say as kids. I don't know if anybody says it anymore. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Have you heard that? Some of these things kind of go away over time. But, I mean, those are words to live by. If somebody offends you, you can either stand up for yourself or your opinion, or you can just ignore them. Turn the channel. Go somewhere else. Okay? Don't shut them down. It's not a free country otherwise. Okay? So, yeah. All right. Done with that. All right. So let's move on to a nice controversial topic, okay, these days, and that's build a wall. Do you have one of these? Okay. I got an extra one, just so you can see it. You can write on it if you want. I don't care. I don't need it. So, all right. So, okay. Obviously, let's bring in the president here. Okay, President Trump. All right. So, when he started running for president in 2016, the first thing he talked about was immigration. Okay, and illegal immigration. And he said that we need to secure the border, and the best way to do that is with a great big wall from one side of Mexico to the other side of Mexico, along the border, okay? Now we have, I don't know if you guys know this, if you were to walk around the outside of the United States, it'd be 18,000 miles to walk around, okay? Now the southern border is quite a bit smaller than that, okay? Now, I think the number that Trump is claiming now is about 300 miles that's been built since he's been president of wall. And we already had barrier wall and fence along the border in many places, okay? Now, let's talk about illegal immigration as a whole, okay? And I'm going to try to be very fair here, okay? So there's upside to illegal immigration, and then there's downside to it, okay? The upside is the people that are coming into this country, most of them, the vast majority of them, all they're doing is looking for a better life. So if I was living in Mexico or Guatemala or Nicaragua or Honduras or El Salvador or Colombia, all of those countries have issues, okay? Safety issues, employment issues, economic issues, okay? So if I was living in one of those countries, if you were living in one of those countries, and you knew you could get into the United States for a better life, maybe you'd think about doing the same thing too, right? So you can understand why people want to come here, okay? Even though a lot of people say we're such a racist society, well, why do people still want to come here if we're so racist? Because that's a lie. Guys, there are millions and millions of interactions between multiple races in this country every day. When you go to Quick Trip or Dillon's or you're just around other people of different races. The only time we hear about it is when something goes wrong. And when something goes wrong between the races, guess who shows up? The media. So they can tell everybody about it. Okay? So you play a lot of basketball. I was talking to Coach Dominic about this earlier. Right? We had a conversation this morning. And, he spent a lot of time around black people as a basketball guy. He's some of my best friends, are black people. Okay? And it's silly to think that. Now, if you don't know anybody that's of a different race, you may be ignorant of other people, and there may be some fear of that. Okay, I can tell you a story. Did I tell you a story? Yeah. So I don't know if I told this class, but I went to high school in Indiana my first 2.5 years. Indianapolis, very rich suburb of Indianapolis. I mean, we're talking money. All right. My mom and dad were doing well at that point. That changed. But anyhow, 2,600 students in my high school. Big high school. We have 1,100 here. Okay, which is still a pretty big high school, right? There were 2 black students in the whole school. And I think they were both African immigrants. Okay? Very few Latino students, few Asian students, okay? And then halfway through my junior year, I moved to Florida. Okay, and I went to a public school there that was 60% white and 40% black. I had never met a black person before until the age of 16. Okay, so first day I sat down in English class. First day, right here. Sitting right next to me is a guy named Patrick Moore. 6'4", large linebacker, and very black. I was scared of Patrick Moore. I'd never met a black person. Okay, but it turns out Patrick Moore is one of the nicest people you ever meet. Didn't take me long to figure that out. And I didn't have to be scared of Patrick. Okay, Patrick Moore went on to play linebacker at the University of Florida. Now he's the strength and conditioning coach in Texas. Okay, great dude. Okay, and a lot of other black people that I became friends with while I was, playing baseball and so forth at that school. And so my attitude changed. There was no fear. You know what I mean? So sometimes we're fearful of what we're ignorant of or don't understand, right? And so I think that's that's where a lot of people are. I don't think it's that everybody's like, racist and that sort of thing. Because as a country, we are the most diverse population in the world. You guys understand that? If you go to England, they're pretty diverse, okay? Because they've had a lot of immigration from like India and Pakistan and from North Africa. But if you go to Vietnam, do you see other races in Vietnam? Not too many. You go to China, you don't see a lot of other races. You go to Russia, you don't see a lot of other races. You go to Brazil, you don't see a lot of other races. Guys, we are the most diverse country in the world. Of course, occasionally there's going to be problems between people. And we have a long history of racism, slavery, and so do a lot of other countries. We're not the only country that's ever had slavery. Not even close. Okay? So it's about today. It's about how we treat people. Okay? Now, when President Trump says we want to secure the border, does that mean because he hates Mexicans? Or is it because there are some detrimental effects to illegal immigration being here? And when you have a porous border, okay, lots of things flow across, not just people. So do drugs. Okay, and so, guys, one of the biggest killers in this country, we have basically a pandemic of opioid addiction. Okay, things like fentanyl. And it's all these pills that people are taking. Okay, and it's killing people. And so there's a reason beyond, stopping people from coming across the border to build a wall. Now, is a wall going to stop everybody? No, but it will slow down illegal immigration. Now, let's talk about the positives and the negatives. So a lot of migrant workers will come across the border, some of them illegally, and work in this country. They will take that money and they will send it back home to their family. Okay, so the positive is, one of the things is your food costs. So when you eat fruit and vegetables and you go to Dillon's, you buy food. See, so a lot of these immigrants will work for a lower wage than, which brings down the cost of food. A lot of these people will work in construction, which brings down the cost of construction, which could be your roof, could be your house, could be a lot of different things. So there's an economic positive there, unless you look at it this way. If illegal immigrants will come in and work for a lower wage, does that lower wages for other people that don't have a lot of skills? Okay, it's people with just high school diplomas. So if an immigrant's willing to work for $7.35 an hour, where it's a job where you should probably be able to make, $10 to $15 an hour. Now Americans their wages are being lowered because of it. So they're having to compete with low-wage workers, which hurts minorities in this country. It hurts African Americans in this country because of wages. Okay, if we want African Americans to move into the middle class, okay, then they need to make more money. So that's one thing. And guys, great work ethic. I know people that own companies that hire illegal immigrants, or some that have just green cards. And they say, these people show up for work on time. They work hard the whole time. And are great employees because they understand the opportunity that they have. So they won't hire white people. They're like, I'm hiring these Mexicans because these people have a great work ethic. Okay. So, there's positives to it. Okay. There's also negatives. If illegal immigrants show up, and we see this in the diocese side, okay, and they show up to go to school, we don't turn them away. Okay, and if they don't speak English, then you need to hire teachers like English as a second language. And every time you hire a teacher, it's expensive. Okay, so it costs a lot to educate the children of illegal immigrants. Okay? In order to get a job in this country, in most places, you got to have a Social Security number. So illegal immigrants are forced to get fake Social Security numbers, violate the law, or steal other people's Social Security numbers, which creates problems. Okay? The other place is healthcare. Chances are, if you're an illegal immigrant, you do not have health insurance. So you show up at the emergency room. They're not going to turn you away. They're not going to ask you if you're a citizen or not, whether you have insurance or not. If you're in an emergency, the doctors will care for you. And then when you can't pay that bill, guess what happens to the cost of healthcare? The doctors are going to need to recoup that. Hospitals are going to have to recoup that money. So what they're going to do is they're going to raise prices for everybody else that is paying to cover the cost of those that are not paying, which leads to higher healthcare costs for the rest of us. Okay? So guys, I'm just being intellectually honest here. There are some good things. I understand why people want to come here. I'm not anti-immigrant. Okay? In fact, we need immigration. We really do need it. You know why? Because we're not having enough children in this country. Okay, now, I realize I'm teaching in Catholic schools. How many kids in your family? 7. 4. How many? 2, 3. 3 total? 3 kids? Just 2? 6? 2. Okay. Now, if we all just had 2 kids, right? What would happen to the population? It would stay the same, right? Okay. But the thing is, a lot of people are having 1 or none. Okay. The average for the American people is like 1.8. I know. How do you have 1.8 child? It's an average. Okay. 1.8. So what's that mean? Population is going to happen if you have no immigration. It's going to shrink, which is what's happening in Japan, which is what's happening in Europe. When we get this cozy lifestyle, and we want to go do all these things and enjoy life, all these luxuries, we don't want kids to drag us down. I mean, that kind of cramps your lifestyle. Are you know what I mean? That's really happening. I have one sister. She's married. They have no kids. My wife has one brother. He's married. They have no kids. Now, I can't imagine going through life without having kids. I have loved raising kids, and I'm so worried about when Lily graduates and we go to the empty nest. I'm really sad about that. I'm not looking forward to that. So I'm going to go coach a little league game or something. Yeah, I mean, I got to be around kids. Well, I'll still teach. I'll be around you guys, but yeah. So, all right. Sorry. Back to immigration. I'm not going to get anything done here. Okay. Build a wall. Okay. Does it slow down illegal immigration? Does it slow down the drug trade? Yes. Okay. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it more expensive in the healthcare system than to build a wall, and the cost that we get from the healthcare and education? Not even close. The wall's a lot cheaper. Okay. Some people say we shouldn't build walls, that we should have open borders. Allow people to come and go, say please. Okay. I don't know how you feel about that. Okay. If you look at the Democratic Party right now, a lot of them are very much for open borders. Okay. So there's lots of things that can cross across those borders. We have found Korans in northern Mexico of I mean, think about it. If you're from Bangladesh and you can get to Mexico, can you get into the United States? Yes. Okay. If you're from China and you can get to Mexico, can you get into the United States? Yes. Okay. So people around the world do that. And some of those people want to do harm to the United States. Okay. So securing the border, having legal immigration, importing people, migrant workers, giving people green cards so that they can come in and work legally. The number is around 12 to 13 million people here illegally. Okay, now let me tell you something a lot of people don't know. Okay, say, you guys know what a visa is? Like a work visa. So if you're from Vietnam and you go to school for a school visa, you go to college in the United States. So around, thank you, around 40% of all illegal immigrants in this country are on visa overstays. And then about 60% from coming across the border. Does that make sense? So like you get your visa, you come here, and then your visa expires and you just melt into America. 40% of, 12 to 13 million. Right? Now, I don't think most Republicans and no Democrats are in favor of deporting all illegal immigrants. I am not in favor of that in any way. Father Eric Weldon. You guys know him? Okay, he used to be the pastor here. He's at what's one of the most Latino parishes we have? It's St. Patrick's?
No, I think it is
St. Pat's. So he went down there, a lot of Spanish-speaking people, right? So he had to learn Spanish. He didn't even know Spanish, okay? And he was telling me, he's great. I love Father Eric. He was telling me about the families. So, like, they have families, like, the dad has been here for a while. He's illegal. The kids were born here. They're legal. And you're going to send dad back. He's been here for 30 years. Okay? The people that we do send back generally are those that commit crimes. Okay? And that could be a DUI. So I heard about one of the students in our diocese a couple of years ago whose dad got deported because he got a DUI. A guy's driving under an influence is dangerous. People die all the time because of drunk drivers. Now, did that make me feel bad for that family? Yeah. You know what I mean? But we are a nation of laws. You either abide by our laws or you pay the consequences. That's the contract that you have as citizens. If you have no laws and you don't enforce the laws, then nobody obeys the laws. Okay, so it's tough. I mean, it's a really difficult thing. I'm not for deporting millions of Americans, and I don't think most Americans are. But you'll never deal with the problem if you don't stem the symptom, which is the border or the visa overstays. Okay, so if you think a wall will work or help with all of the things I talked about, then you might want to say yes. If you think, you know what, I'm fine with anybody coming in, we can just use border enforcement, we don't need walls or fences, I'm against that. Say no. Okay? You decide. In favor of the death penalty. Okay, good. This one you guys are probably pretty knowledgeable, I think, about. You know where the church stands on this? You know what the church says? Basically, if somebody commits murder and is a threat to society, you can lock them up. Okay? But if you cannot lock them up in a safe, secure facility, like a maximum security prison, like El Dorado, then you can use the death penalty. Do we have maximum security prisons here that are almost impossible to escape from? Yeah. So under that, if you went with the church's teaching on that, then you would be opposed to the death penalty. You follow me? That's the church's stance, okay? But if you were thinking outside of that, you might be in favor or opposed to it for whatever reason. A lot of times this debate comes down to the economics of it. How much does it cost? Okay? So if you take a 20-year-old or two 20-year-olds, have you guys know who the Carr brothers are? Raise your hand if you know who the Carr brothers are. Okay. They don't. I'm going to tell them who the Carr brothers are, okay? About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, Reginald and Jonathan Carr, both from Western Kansas, they came to Wichita, and they went on a kind of a crime spree. They broke into a duplex. You guys know what a duplex is. And there were, I believe, 5 college students in the duplex. They held them at gunpoint and drove each one of them to the ATM machine and then had them withdraw money from the ATMs at gunpoint. Then they got them back in the apartment, the duplex, and then they raped the girls. And then they forced the girls to have sex with the guys that were there. These were strong Christian students. A lot of people that I've met over the years knew some of the victims. Their families knew the victims. People from Bishop Carroll. When they were done with them, they took them. You guys know where Cabela's is? Greenwich Road? That used to be nothing out there. Okay? In fact, there wasn't even a ramp to get off on Greenwich there. Okay? Off K96. Okay? There's a little lake over there by Cabela's. Okay? So just on Greenwich, there's nothing out there. It's just out in the country. And they were naked, and this was December. There was snow on the ground. They had them, the 5 young people, get out of the car, had them kneel on the side of Greenwich Road, and they shot each one of them in the back of the head. One of the victims had a hair clip in her hair, and the bullet ricocheted off the hair clip. Now, she was bleeding, but the bullet did not go into her head. So she's laying there playing dead in the middle of the night, freezing cold weather. They leave. She gets up, sees lights, there's houses over there. She walks around the lake naked, and they knocked on the door. By about 9 o'clock that morning, Reginald and Jonathan Carr were detained at an apartment complex over by Wichita State. They showed no remorse. One of my buddies is a parole officer. He saw them in the jail, and they were laughing. Now, Supreme Court justice, because this case actually wound up in front of the Supreme Court, the death penalty case, Anthony Scalina, who's passed on, said in all of his years as a judge, this may have been the worst crime he's ever seen. See, the Kansas Supreme Court overturned the death penalty for these 2 guys, saying that they should have been tried and sentenced separately rather than together. The U.S. Supreme Court said 9-0. That's a load of crap. Reinstate the death penalty. Okay. Now, that girl survived. And she knows every day that those 2 brothers are in El Dorado right now. Her family survived. Should we give the victims the solace of knowing put them to death, that they will never, ever walk this earth again, do harm to anyone? Or is it not really the role of the state to kill people? Now, I live in a house divided on this. My wife thinks one way, I think the other way. Okay? Now, if you're for the death penalty, I mean, I would assume you would really want to make sure that without a doubt the person was guilty, right? You would not want to give somebody the death penalty on circumstantial evidence. We have an eyewitness here, but a victim, you know what I mean? And they had other evidence as well, like at the ATM machines. They had pictures. So, it's tough. Now, is it more expensive to keep those two guys that were in their 20s for the rest of their life, or to kill them? The answer is you can twist the statistics any way you want. It's expensive to keep somebody in jail for 60 years. It's also expensive because if they can't afford a lawyer, the state has to pay for them to have a lawyer. And you're not going to just hire some low-priced lawyer. You're going to hire a good lawyer. Okay? Otherwise, their conviction will be overturned later if you give them some dude just out of law school defending guys in a death penalty case. You got to give them somebody good. And so that's expensive. And then you get a lot of appeals. If you're on the death penalty, you get a lot of chances to go in front of a judge and say, hey, judge, this is new evidence. Here's an appeal. That takes a lot of time. That's expensive. So in reality, it's expensive to do either. So this comes down, I think, mostly to a moral argument. However, does the death penalty deter people from committing crimes? Because the only thing you're going to get death penalty for is for premeditated capital murder, where you plan it and you carry it out. If you're thinking about killing somebody, and then you know that you live in a state like Texas or Arkansas where they use the death penalty, you think to yourself, you know what, maybe I won't kill this person because then I could be killed. Is it a deterrent? I don't know. I've never thought about killing somebody. Okay. Kansas has the death penalty, but we haven't used it since it's been reinstated. Now, the Constitution here, the 8th Amendment, okay, says no cruel or unusual. Oh my gosh. Cruel or unusual. My brain is not working. Is that right? Is there an A in there?
Are you trying to say unusual?
Yeah, unusual. Unusual.
There you go.
I got it. Holy cow. Good morning. No cruel or unusual punishment. Okay? Now, in 1976, now when they wrote this in 1791, guys, we were still hanging people for murder. You know what I mean? And publicly, in some cases. Now, so obviously they weren't saying the death penalty was cruel and unusual if they were doing it when they wrote it. But in 1976, the Supreme Court said it was cruel and unusual. And for 4 years in this country, there was no death penalty. In 1980, they reversed the decision and said, we leave it up to the states. If your state wants a death penalty, you can have it. And that's the way it should be. That's called federalism. Okay? You want to live in a death penalty state? You can move to a death penalty state. You don't want to live in a death penalty state? You can move it. If you don't like the law in your state, you can try and change it. That's how it works. Okay? So, when BTK, you guys know BTK, when he committed his murder, Kansas did not have the death penalty. So even though we caught him while there is the death penalty, he didn't commit the murders during that time. So he's life in prison. Carr brothers are on death row. Although we haven't executed anybody since 1980 when we reinstituted it. Well, I forget the exact year we reinstituted it. But we haven't executed anybody since then. Okay? So it's up to the state. Now, using an electric chair, in Florida, they used to call it Old Sparky. Okay? The Supreme Court said that's cruel and unusual. You can't use the electric chair anymore. Because sometimes it didn't work. So you were like being electrocuted for a really long time. And hair catching on fire. And, yeah, it's pretty gross. So lethal injection is the preferred non-cruel and unusual punishment. Eye for an eye, or turn the other cheek. Old Testament, New Testament. How do you feel about the death penalty? What else can I talk about to this issue? It's a great movie. I like to talk about movies. Called Dead Man Walking. Okay. Sister Helen Prejean, who ministers to death row inmates, wrote a book about her experience with a death row inmate in Angola down in Louisiana. And then they made a movie out of it. It's pretty good. My wife got to meet the sister, Sister Helen Prejean. Yeah, so, yeah, it's, like I said, everybody's got a different opinion on this one. So you make a call, okay? Did we get through 3 today? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now, tomorrow's lecture, guys, will be kind of like deep, okay? I mean, like economics. So I'm going to be writing on the board quite a bit. I'll try and make sure I get you in the window, okay, of that. And then school, I'll probably just get through 2 tomorrow, okay? And tomorrow's Friday, okay? See you guys. Nobody came in this morning. Wake up!